Most people are fighting a war they can't see. It's not a war of nations or armies, not one fought with bullets or blood, but with glances, words, and silence. It happens in conversations, in negotiations, in moments of hesitation that last less than a breath. You feel it sometimes, when someone's tone shifts slightly, when a pause lingers too long, when a compliment feels just a little too sharp. These are not coincidences. These are invisible battles, fought every day in the quiet terrain of perception. 400 years ago, a man named Miyamoto Musashi mastered that unseen battlefield. In over 60 life-and-death duels, he was never once defeated. But his victories weren't born from faster reflexes or stronger arms. They came from his ability to see what others could not, to pierce through illusion and uncover the structure of the mind itself. Musashi didn't fight people, he fought perception. He learned to bend reality itself, because he understood the secret that most never do. Reality isn't what you see, it's what you believe. And belief can be shaped. Imagine Japan in the early 17th century, mist-covered mountains, fog drifting across rivers like silk. The air itself feels like suspense. Honor, pride, and death are woven into every breath. In this world, perception isn't philosophy, it's survival. To be deceived once could mean the end of your bloodline. To misread intent, to hesitate, to believe the wrong story could cost you everything. It was within this brutal clarity that Musashi discovered something timeless. The mind is the true battleground. April 13th, 1612, the island of Ganryu. The duel that would echo through centuries. Sasaki Kojiro, the swallow cut, waits at dawn. He's a man of legend. His sword so long and swift it seems to sing as it cuts air. He stands tall, proud, dressed with perfection. The crowd watches him like a god, and yet the god is waiting. Minutes turn to hours. The fog fades, the sun climbs, and Musashi is nowhere to be seen. Kojiro's pulse tightens, his pride twists into impatience. The tension grows heavy enough to be felt in the air. By the time Musashi finally steps from his boat 3 hours late, Kojiro's mind is already broken. That's how Musashi won before the fight began. The first rule of invisible war: time is not neutral. It's a weapon. Control the rhythm, and you control perception. When you dictate the flow, you sculpt emotion. The impatient become reckless. The proud become predictable. The confident lose composure. Every second of waiting eroded Kojiro's discipline. He began fighting a battle inside his own head, and Musashi hadn't even drawn his sword. When Musashi finally stepped onto the sand, he carried no polished steel blade, only a rough wooden oar he'd carved on his way there. The crowd laughed. Kojiro sneered, but what none of them saw was that Musashi had already shattered the illusion of normality. His late arrival, his crude weapon, his calm eyes, everything was designed to disrupt expectation. When Kojiro drew his sword in rage, Musashi's mind was still. His strike, one motion, one breath, ended the duel instantly. The victory wasn't physical, it was psychological. Musashi understood that perception is architecture, invisible walls and pathways that govern thought. Whoever shapes perception shapes the outcome. He used no tricks, no lies, only awareness. He saw through every surface to the structure beneath. He observed without reacting. He allowed others to reveal themselves. And that's the second rule of invisible war. What you see is never the whole story. Most people live inside illusions built from their own expectations. They see not the truth, but what they want to be true. The friend who seems loyal but hides envy. The colleague who smiles while competing against you. The stranger who offers help with invisible strings attached. Musashi didn't judge or react. He watched. He trained his mind to stay empty long enough to perceive reality without distortion. He called it polishing the mirror, removing the fog of emotion and ego until clarity returns. This is a practice of war and wisdom. Look at your own life. In every meeting, every conversation, there's a second battle unfolding beneath the surface. The meeting behind the meeting. Who sits near whom? Who interrupts? Who glances down when a name is spoken? These small details reveal power, fear, and intention more accurately than any words ever could. But you can only see them if your own mind is quiet. Modern neuroscience now explains what Musashi learned through experience. The brain's default mode network, the system that detects patterns, empathizes, and strategizes, only functions clearly when you're not flooded by emotion. When anger, fear, or pride take over, your mind shuts down its higher awareness. You stop observing and start reacting. The person who keeps calm sees more, understands more, and predicts more. This is how Musashi lived. Every duel, every encounter was an experiment in perception, an exploration of human psychology long before science gave it language. He knew that deception thrives in noise. The louder your mind becomes, the easier you are to manipulate. The salesman who rushes you with urgency, the boss who delays feedback to keep you uncertain, the partner who twists your emotions until you question your own intuition. All of them use noise as a weapon. Musashi learned to silence his inner noise until no manipulation could take root. He became invisible to deception because his awareness left no surface to grip. There's a story told among his students. During one duel, his opponent grew anxious waiting for Musashi's stance, but Musashi never moved. He stood perfectly still, not rigid, just present. Minutes passed. The other man began to twitch, shifting positions, trying to guess when the strike would come. Finally, driven by the weight of his own thoughts, he lunged. Musashi didn't even think. He simply moved, ending the duel in a single breath. People called it reflex. It was not. It was the absence of noise, the absence of self. That's the third rule of invisible war. When your mind is still, your actions are perfect. Thought is too slow. The body knows when the mind stops interfering. This is what the Zen monks called Mushin no Shin, the mind of no mind, the place where instinct and intelligence merge. Musashi found that stillness not by removing emotion but by mastering it. He didn't suppress fear or anger. He let them pass through him without resistance. When you can remain calm while everyone else loses control, you become unreadable. You give off no cues, no tells, no vibrations to exploit. You become like deep water, reflective, silent, unfathomable. The manipulator depends on reaction. Without it, they have no foothold. That's why Musashi's calm was deadlier than any sword. It wasn't emptiness, it was presence. Even modern interrogators echo his wisdom. The FBI's most experienced agents say the hardest people to break aren't the stubborn ones. They're the curious ones, the ones who stay open, calm, and unreactive. Because curiosity keeps the mind fluid. It prevents the rigid fear that breaks under pressure. Musashi understood this centuries ago. He didn't resist the world. He observed it until it revealed itself. In the Book of Five Rings, he wrote, "Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye." That wasn't metaphor. It was instruction. What cannot be seen are intentions, the hidden motives, fears, and desires that drive people long before their words catch up. Musashi trained himself to read those signals. A slight tension in the jaw, a faint change in rhythm, the tiny pause before agreement. He could sense a man's decision before he himself knew he'd made it. But Musashi's mastery wasn't about defeating others. It was about defeating illusion within himself. He realized something that most never dare to face. Deception begins internally. Every time you're fooled by another, it's because you first fooled yourself. You ignored your intuition, dismissed the discomfort, or chose the easy lie over the hard truth. The opponent outside is never the real enemy. The enemy is the part of your mind that prefers comfort over clarity. He wrote near the end of his life, "I have defeated many enemies, but my greatest victory was over the enemy within." He meant the mind that looks away from truth, that accepts half measures, that tells itself soothing stories instead of confronting reality. Every time you justify what you know is wrong, every time you ignore the quiet feeling that something is off, you feed that enemy. And the more you feed it, the weaker your perception becomes. To walk the way of Musashi is to turn your sword inward, to cut through self-deception with honesty so sharp it leaves nothing hidden. That's not cynicism, it's courage. The courage to see without distortion. The courage to face your flaws without shame. The courage to stop pretending. Because the moment you stop lying to yourself, no one else can lie to you again. In every aspect of life, business, love, leadership, friendship, the same invisible war is being fought. You can feel it. The subtle negotiations for power, for attention, for respect. The ones who see clearly rise, the ones who can't, fall. It's not about paranoia, it's about presence. Musashi didn't need to outthink his opponents because he outsaw them. His awareness reached beyond reaction, beyond planning. When your mind is still enough, you don't predict, you perceive, you sense, you act. The duel on Ganryu Island wasn't just a fight between two men, it was a lesson about human nature. Kojiro relied on skill, Musashi relied on stillness. Kojiro's strength came from control. Musashi's power came from surrender. To the moment, to perception, to truth. And that same duel is playing out in your life right now, in the quiet wars of attention, emotion, and belief. Every conversation, every argument, every decision is a chance to see or to remain blind. You can react to the surface, or you can see the structure beneath it. You can live trapped in the illusions others project, or you can become the calm center they cannot disturb. The true sword of Musashi wasn't steel. It was awareness, forged in solitude, sharpened through honesty, tempered by stillness. That sword cuts through illusion, through manipulation, through the fog of modern life. It's the weapon of the warrior who no longer seeks to win but to understand. The war for your mind never stops. Every advertisement, every argument, every emotion that tries to drag you from clarity is part of it. The only victory is awareness, the courage to see exactly what is, to choose presence over reaction, truth over comfort. Because when you can see clearly, no one can deceive you. When your mind is calm, no one can control you. And when your awareness becomes your sword, you no longer fear any battle, within or without. Train your mind, master yourself, walk the dojo path,